Solar energy. Solar energy is taking off. It has, it is the world's largest energy source, of course, but it's mostly untapped. It provides about 0.1 of the total energy in the U.S., about 0.8 is the 10-year target. Now, this has been changed by the current President Obama's renewable energy push. We shall see what happens here. But it has pros and cons, just like everything else. Pros, sun is free, solar energy falls. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The solar energy that falls on only 0.1% of the U.S. would supply all the energy the U.S. now uses. Boy, that's seductive, isn't it? The technology is rapidly improving, and I mean rapidly. It is amazing. When we look at the result of this, the thing is that you have this huge diverse, it is diffuse, right? It is very diffuse. The technology has been to concentrate it in a small area. And they've talked about putting things up in outer space and bringing it down in certain ways. And oh my goodness, it's just marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. And what happens when you improve technology? It becomes less costly. It was $3, and this is a way we often read it so we can do apples to apples, kilowatt hours for that's like how we do electricity. And this was in 1990. And as of 2009, that's February '09, the number I found was now 22 cents per kilowatt hour. And this is down here. Notice, however, coal still beats it. But coal is, at this writing, is at about $70 per ton. And this goes up to 60, let's say $60 per ton. It goes up to 70 for anthracite, the higher qualities, and goes down to $13 per ton for the nasty brown coal. And it does change a lot depending upon the time of year. Okay. It goes from $13 all the way up to $70, and this is winter prices. Okay. Alrighty. What are the cons? It's intermittent. The sun goes down. Sun goes down. All right. And it's a cloudy day. Oh no. Can't make coffee. It's a cloudy day. Okay, but it's difficult to store is a big problem. We're going to need better battery technology. So bigger batteries. That's technology. I better write it out so it's readable. We also can find ways to physically store the heat, like in rocks. Store heat for later, like in rocks. Okay, and people do this. They have rocks touching each other underneath the floorboards of their homes, and their Tootsies are very tasty because they're nice and warm on the bottom of the wooden floor sitting on top of these rocks. Okay. And they have rocks outside too. Okay, and the other thing is, this is kind of fun for me. They use sun to run endothermic reactions. We talked about this way back. Endothermic means it needs energy. Then later, when the sun's away, allow the reaction to spontaneously run exothermically. So exothermic is energy out, usually heat energy. Put that. Oh, run exothermic reactions to run spontaneously exothermically. So it's kind of like taking a propeller and running a rubber band around it or something, and then allowing the propeller to spontaneously unwind. Okay. All right. And one of the coolest things is that you don't have to be on the grid. You don't have to be next to a power plant. And guys, a third of the world's population is off the grid, does not have access to an electric number. What they call off the grid. You hear survivalists talk about being off the grid too. They don't want to have to depend on somebody else. But off the grid means they are not in no electric network. And for these people, life is pretty tough. Generators for the people who can afford it, but these people do not, many people do not have access to generators and such, and so it is very difficult. But solar cells are essentially maintenance free. They're not cheap, but once you get one, they're maintenance free and can be used almost anywhere. They've made them pretty darn rugged. So this person here is not watching TV. They are pumping water. Instead of walking 5 miles to the well, they are purifying water. And probably not here, but in some areas, heat. And you've probably seen them on the side of the road for street lights or for traffic control, for essentials. They're being used for essentials that you and I often take for granted. In the past year, we've had 200,000 solar cells installed in residential units in Colombia, Dominican Republic, Mexico, Sri Lanka, South Africa, India, and places that have not seen, they've been so remote they have not seen electric generation in their own homes. Okay. Why has this been possible? Because, and this is the stuff I need you to understand, is costs have been steadily declining. This is what I need you to know. And it's because, well, efficiencies and conversions have increased dramatically, yes. Plus, a large cost is raw materials. Silicon and other metalloids. Metalloids are the stair-step elements between metals and non-metals, and they're really cool because they're called semiconductors because they'll conduct electricity only under certain conditions. Like you put a small charge or a small voltage, right, a little tiny voltage, and higher temperatures, and you've got a whole bunch of electrons down here, right, in the material, and that little bit of voltage knocks them up here. This is called a band gap. Terms that we might have heard before. And then the electrons are free to move. The electrons, oh, they run all over the place. And the material conducts electricity. You don't need to know this, it's just kind of interesting. But I want you to appreciate that the nuts and bolts of these guys are metalloids, and the cost has been decreasing, going down. For example, polysilica in, oh golly, 708. So July of 08, it was $100, $400 a ton. Oh, is that right? No, I think it's a pound, guy. I think it's a pound. Pardon me. Yeah, kilogram. Wrong twice. So back in the summer of 08, it was $400 a kilogram. And this, again, it changes, but in 2009, February 9, it was $30 per kilogram. You don't need a lot to make this stuff, but boy, that's a huge cost savings. That's kilogram down here. $30 per kilogram. 30 versus 400. Okay, hydroelectric power. This is the largest of all renewable. We get 7% of our renewables. 7% of our energy is renewable out of total, and 3.7 of that is water. We have dammed every single major river in this country for over, well, look at Niagara Falls or the Colorado. It's been dammed for 50 years. Right now, China's doing a huge project called Three Rivers Gorge, and it has been very destructive to the areas around it and to the people. They've flooded homes and villages and destroyed environmental areas. We did this a long time ago, I guess, or we found places that it really didn't matter, or we had these lovely pure places that had waterfalls. But China's need for electricity is daunting. Wind energy is the fastest growing technology. We have a lot of it going on and a lot of people involved in this. Of course, it's been around forever and ever. Remember Don Quixote chasing windmills? And wind energy is got many pros to it. One thing is that the wind is totally free, totally renewable. It's an extremely old tested technology, thousands of years old. Pretty cheap to build, especially with the new materials they're coming up with. Easy to store and transport electricity. Again, we bring the electricity down through here, and just like at a coal-burning power plant, we then send the electricity to your home or collection station, and we do have losses, but it's just as much losses as the efficiency of coal-burning power plants sending electricity. So there's no difference there. The cost is on par for coal for good wind, and good wind is not that common. You need to have steady, you need to have high, and there are some places, like there's a beautiful wind corridor all the way down the central part of our country, which is very exciting for farmers, ranchers, and they put up one of these guys, and their cows and their sheep and their crops could care less. And they make a nice little sum of money for a passive solar system. The cons, it's intermittent, inconsistent. Of course, the wind can stop blowing. All these kinds of renewables have this problem. The solar, the wind, and then the next one is the big killer is intermittent, inconsistent, kill a lot of birds. These can be in some of the best wind is offshore. Right? Offshore, and let me put down here a strip of the U.S. running from Canada to Mexico in the middle. We call this the wind corridor. You'll forgive me if I spell corridor wrong, but I'll write it so small you can't tell. In the middle. Midwest. Okay. From Canada to Mexico. Now also, and offshore, the problem with offshore is that this is a migration path for many birds. But migration path for many birds, and a lot of people don't want to look out of their $1-million houses and look at these humongous things. This is 100 foot, so I would be down here. This is about a 10-story building. And these are very large, and they're even larger when they have the traditional props. This guy. So these can be 200 feet in length. Okay. They're loud and very spooky. They're like, and you don't know what it is. You're like, some creature's coming to get me. And like I say, they like to put them offshore. It'd be nice to put them way offshore because the wind gets better and better. But the seawater is corrosive, and you can't really keep it stable when you've got big waves. So what do? You can... Oh, I forgot one thing is, check this out. Look where Ohio is, right behind what I would consider the most progressive state in terms of renewables. We are expecting to have a huge number of jobs and money involved, and there's a lot around here. And Bowling Green University is one of the centers in the country for this technology. And having these kind of experts early on uh, has made it very attractive to entrepreneurs wishing to expand here. It's just something to think about if you're looking for a job. This is what I was talking about. Wave power. I love this. These are little pylons, and they're attached to arms that go up and down, up and down. And by doing this, they turn the turbine and they produce electricity, which is then brought this way, or maybe it's electricity on shore. I hate to think of them putting electricity down here, but somehow the motion of the ocean, I like that, motion of the ocean produces energy which is transferred to the shore and turned into electricity. Okay? E dash means electrons, so the whole thing means electricity. Okay? And of course waves are very unintermittent, pretty constant, but do have the let's see, the ocean is not always consistent. You can have storms, you can have very flat times of the year, so we we do have the problems of rough weather, flat, calm oceans, and of course corrosion from the seawater, corrosion from the salt water, which does promote oxidation of this stuff, the rusting of the stuff. But, oh my goodness, can you imagine? You don't have to worry about views or animals or intermittency, usually. Let's just say intermittency. You know what we could say? We could say routine intermittency, constant intermittency. The oxymoron. I can't resist, I'm sorry. Not constant intermittency. Intermittency, like the sun going down, sunset, and wind dying. This is much more not a great problem. Intermittency, not a great problem, not a huge problem. Okay, not constant intermittency. And like I say, this is an oxymoron. You got to take them when you find them. They're so much fun. It's like clean coal. All right, cool. And that is the end of this section. Here he is, big guy, but that's what he looks like, of a sea monster.